Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Just Law. As you know, in this program we discuss legal matters, and today I have Yomi Yusuf, who's a specialist in immigration matters. Good to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yomi has been doing immigration law for about 8 years. He works from an office in Marble Arch, central London, specializing in immigration that's related to do with business. So we're going to talk more about that as the show progresses. Viewers, today you can ask your questions as always in English. You can also ask your questions in Bengali. And also, Yomi, you speak another language, but you're saying there may not be that many audience from that language.
Yes, it's a native language from Nigeria, but I don't imagine that it is widely spoken.
Not a problem. My understanding was Nigerians spoke English, so you can correct me on that one.
It is the official language, but there are about 300 local languages aside from that.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I have a few questions of my own to ask you, and then we'll open the phone lines for viewer questions.
Okay.
Viewers, you can ask questions on other related matters or other matters, including family, perhaps criminal or business or other questions. But do remember, whatever we say in this program is to sort of give you directions, to give you indications, to maybe explore a few things relating to your question. Before you take any particular action, you should always seek local support, sit with somebody, have a consultation, give them a full disclosure so they know exactly what's happening. Because some of the things we say here is correct, but may not be correct in your particular circumstances. And of course, in a show like this, we can't really go through all the details. It is, the purpose is to educate and to inform and to update. But if you do take, a particular step, make sure it's a correct step in your particular circumstances. Okay, so viewers, you can call in and ask. You can ask your questions in English, in Bengali, on family, immigration, and other related matters. But inshallah, I'll start with a few questions I have of my own. So Yomi, a lot of your work is to do with entrepreneurs coming over to the UK. So perhaps some of our viewers, they themselves, or they have friends or relatives who have the financial capacity to come, but they're worried that there's too many requirements, or they may not be able to fulfill all the requirements. Just for clarity, what are the basic requirements for an entrepreneur visa?
Well, the basic requirements for the entrepreneur visa are firstly the capital, which is...
so they have to have a certain amount of money in a bank account?
Yes.
For how long and how much?
Currently, the capital is £200,000, or the equivalent in the local currency of the country of origin. And it has to have been in the account of the prospective applicant for a period of 90 days, 90 calendar days prior to the application.
So the amount cannot drop in that specified period?
No, I'm afraid it cannot. This is what the guidelines state.
And they have to have full control, so can it be in like joint names or?
Well, the rules also make provision for something called an entrepreneur team, where two people decide that they want to sort of combine their resources and their monies to sort of make the application jointly. So you can have two people that can combine £100,000 each, decide to come together, and then decide to make the application. So it makes provisions for that as well.
But there's no 3 or 4, it has to be up to 2. So it's either 1 or 2?
Yes, 1 or 2, and each of the applicants can have their family members as dependents as well. But the main applicant has to be either 1 or 2.
Okay. Apart from the capital, so let's say somebody has $320,000 in a bank account recognized by their country's financial authority, whoever that may be. Do they have to have a business plan? Do they have to have a particular sort of like a roadmap as to what they will do with their money?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. From the 6th of April 2015, a business plan was made mandatory. Prior to that, it was optional. What the rules state is, under section 245DB of the immigration rules, is saying that a business person is someone who's an entrepreneur, is someone who's intending to come to set up a business or to join or to take over a business in the UK with a view to stimulating growth within the economy. But I think in the eyes of the Home Office, this is their words, they found that a lot of people were abusing the rules. So they decided to introduce a business plan. So this was made mandatory. So
when they say abusing the rules, they mean they have the capital, but they don't necessarily use the capital to create jobs or have a genuine business.
Either that, or they were not really intending to set up a business. This is another reason why the genuine entrepreneur visa test was introduced as well, to test the genuineness of the prospective applicants.
That's interesting. So what does the test entail? I mean, how do you prove that you're a genuine entrepreneur as opposed to not a genuine entrepreneur?
That's an interesting question. It is a subjective test, and it will be conducted by the entry clearance officers at the embassies in the countries of origin. I think what you would have to do as a genuine entrepreneur, in order to pass a genuine entrepreneur test, is to satisfy the entry clearance officer that you're actually looking to come to set up a business or join or take over a business. And I think one of the factors that the ECOs would take into consideration would be your background, whether you've got an educational or professional background, or whether you've done businesses in the past, or whether you've been an entrepreneur.
So are you the right person for that particular business?
Yes.
So you have to have some sort of background. So if you're running a hairdresser shop and you want to set up a restaurant, they may look at that and say, well, you know, we don't think there's transferable skills here, so it doesn't look as though you can run a business and succeed in that.
Well,
is that their thinking, or?
That is one way to look at it, but in my personal opinion, this is just a personal opinion, I think the word entrepreneur by definition is a business person, someone that has multiple ideas, that's looking to come to set up or to do anything. So you can dabble into so many things. So in my personal experience, I've seen people who have gone from a background that is nothing to do with the business they're intending to, but they've shown some sort of interest in this new business and they've decided, okay, I want to go into it. So in my personal experience and opinion, I don't think that your background should be a factor that should count against you if you're looking to go into a business that has nothing to do with your background, because you may just have an interest in something new that you wanted to undertake.
Or you may have identified a gap in the market and you believe you have sufficient resources and skills
that's one way to
succeed.
Well. Yes.
Okay, we're going to turn to the viewers and take perhaps a call or two. Assalamu alaikum. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name's Nathan. I'm calling from Birmingham.
Okay, what's your question, please?
My wife came to the UK at the end of January 2014. She came on a spouse visa, but they give her obviously a 2.5 year visa, which has got to be renewed in the 9th of October next year. My question is, I've been unemployed for 2 weeks now, while my earnings were exceeding the 18,600 threshold. Obviously, the income has come to a halt because I'm unemployed now for the last 2 weeks. My question is but when I do apply for the extension of this visa, will my finances be taken into account for the last 6 months or for the whole year? And if it is for the whole year, would it have an effect on granting a visa if I have an unemployed period within the last 12 months?
Okay, so your question is about extension and the financial requirements when you actually make the extension application. In your case, you've still got quite a long way to go. Okay, anything else you want to add to the question?
No, I understand I've got a long way to go, but when I do apply for the...
Of course, you have to plan, isn't it? If they want it for 6 months, then you have to plan 6 months prior. If they want for a year, you have to plan for a year prior to the application. So I understand what you're asking at this point in time.
Yeah, but which one is it? Which one do they require?
Okay, Jazakallah khair. You want to address that question?
What was the question?
The question is, the gentleman's wife has come on a spouse visa. At the time of the application, he met the financial requirements, so that's fine. But he is thinking of the renewal, extension. And at the point of extension, would they still be looking for 18,600? And if he has gaps or if he's been unemployed for a period, how would that have an impact?
Well, it would be a bit of a challenge to be able to address that question effectively, because in my experience, the rules change from time to time. So I can only comment on what the rules are today, and I cannot comment on what they could be in 2 or 3 or 4 years, because I've done this for 8 years.
Or even 1 year time.
Or even 1 year
just
now.
don't
The
know.
rules are subject to change so frequently that it is very, very difficult to say accurately what the rules would be. But I know also that with the spousal visa, the financial requirement was introduced around the 9th of July 2012. And this was because, again, they wanted people who were sponsoring people out of the UK to show that they had the financial resources to be able to look after whoever it was that they were looking for. Now, it also has been extended to the extension stage and also has been extended to the indefinite leave to remain stage. So yes, at the extension stage, you will need to show that you have the capacity or you still have the financial requirements, either by way of savings or your pay slips, to show that you can accurately continue to meet the financial requirement or to sponsor your spouse. Because in the eyes of the Home Office, they may suspect that if you're unable to, then you may have to seek public benefits and public recourse public funds, And that is one area that you know that is strictly frowned upon by the UK. So my advice would be, if you're unable to meet the financial requirement, either by way of your payslips, then my advice would be for you to sort of to save up in advance, or look for ways to save up in advance, because we don't know what the rules will be, but
it's very likely that they will actually make it stronger than weaker.
They'll make it stronger.
Okay, brother, if I may add something, and that is, inshallah, we don't know what the rules will be when your wife needs to renew her or extend her visa. What we can say is the financial requirements would have a role to play. Please do remember, you're both allowed to work. So you can work, she's allowed to work. You can combine both of your incomes to meet the financial requirements. So inshallah, you need to sort of plan ahead, look into it and see if that can be managed. Yumi has already alluded, you can have some savings and some income from work or other sources. So you can combine both for yours and for the wife. You can have, if you've got savings more than £16,000, whatever you have will be divided by 2.5 and can contribute, or you can add to your income. So the short answer is we don't know, but inshallah, if you plan ahead and have that requirement met by yourself or combined between you and your wife, that will be great. In the event that you don't meet the financial requirements, Yumi, I think what they will do is they will take her off the spouse visa and put her on the discretionary side. Because they obviously won't force her to leave the country.
I think the rules.
So it gets a little bit complicated. But she won't get indefinite after 5. They will probably push it to 10.
Possibly, or if it's refused, then obviously it comes within the Private and Family Life application, isn't it? Article 8. So be obviously given a right of appeal, and then you can go to the court to sort of try and challenge it. But it's likely that the courts themselves may uphold the decision of the Home Office, and you can still try to challenge it through other means, and once you've exhausted all your other options, that's when you can then decide to apply via the discretionary route. And again, that will be at the discretion of the Home Office. If they're satisfied that the reasons why you're unable to continue to satisfy the financial requirement is for reasons beyond your control. Say, for instance, you were in a hospital, you had an accident, and you were unable to continue to provide for your family, or if you were in a coma, then obviously that's enough evidence to establish that it was reasons beyond your control. But as long as they can see that the marriage is still continuing.
But also when it comes to those kind of things, they would look at whether you can go back home and actually sustain a life there. If you have insurmountable obstacles back home, then that would be a good reason why you cannot relocate. Yes. So you can look at it from both sides. Okay, brother, so the summary of it is, inshallah, see if you can meet the financial requirements, not just by yourself, but combined from your wife as well. And of course, before the extension application, double check on all the rules and seek advice at that point. Right now, as things stand, if you meet the financial requirements, alhamdulillah. If you don't, you need to plan so that you do. Otherwise, in my view, I think they will push you on the 10-year, or your wife on the 10-year route to settlement rather than the 5. And that could sort of complicate matters and lengthen things. Okay, next caller. Assalamu alaikum. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. My name is Abdul Wahid.
Okay.
I'm calling from Highwaycombe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I called you so many times, but I could not go through.
Okay.
First of all, please, can you give me your right address and telephone number? I'd like to contact you, please.
Okay, brother, I'll ask the control room to take your details, and then inshallah we'll get back to you. Do you have any question for us right now?
Yes, I have a question. One of my friends, he come from Pakistan. He get 5 years visa since 2000. Yeah, since 2000 he's coming and going, and he want to start the business up here. But unfortunately, his English is not very good. Mm-hmm. But he get lump sum, the 150,000 to 200,000 pounds.
So your question is how mandatory is the English language requirement, or what is that?
Well, yeah, many language requirement as well. Plus,
Okay.
Does he need to give the test? The UKLA test or something like that?
Okay, that's fine. I'll ask you about the language requirements for the entrepreneur and similar applications. Jazakallah khair for your question. So Yomi, if someone has the finances, or he's saying 150,000, 200,000, which 150,000 clearly will be too short. We need to have 220,000 perhaps, including the maintenance and the application fees and the rest of it. Are they flexible on the English language, or do you have to meet a particular level of English?
Unfortunately, the entrepreneur visa is a points-based system application, and therefore you get certain points for each requirement that you're able to provide. If for some reason you're unable to fulfill all the points, then you do not meet the requirements, and therefore the visa will be refused. So the short answer is no, it will not be successful if you do not meet the English language requirement. So therefore you have to ensure that you meet that requirement one way or the other.
Okay, so there's no way around, because I think they give you like 10 points for maintenance, another 10 points for English,
Yes.
and then 70 or 75 for the finance, and then
Yes.
5% for something else.
Yes.
So, brother, the short answer is there is no way around the English language requirement. So it's either the person, studies harder and gets the certificate required, or they make another application which doesn't have an English as a requirement. But unfortunately, I don't think the entrepreneur or the finance or the point-based system, they don't actually cater for not meeting English as a possibility.
I think the reasoning behind the English language test is if you're looking to set up a business in the UK, obviously they want to test your ability to be able to
communicate and to build the business.
To interact. So therefore, I think it goes without saying that you should at least be able to speak English to a certain degree or certain level, as determined by the Home Office and the embassies overseas.
Okay, well, there we have it. English is an integral part, and they do want you to have it in order to have an entrepreneur or related visa applications. Jazakallah khair for that. So going back to the entrepreneur applications we were talking about, we've already addressed the financial requirements. We've already addressed the English language requirements. So what else would the entry clearance or the Home Office be looking for in order to succeed? I mean, we've sort of briefly touched upon business plans, but you've then said it could be a business not directly related to what you've done, but obviously you've identified a gap in the market. Yes. You feel you have the transferable skills, so you want to engage in that. And in your experience, people have done that and people do that. By nature, you said entrepreneurs are people who are business-minded. So they may not be sort of pigeonholed into one particular sector. They may actually diversify. So you've got the money, you've got the English language requirements, you have somewhat business plan. How much is the maintenance?
Well, for the main applicant, it's £3,310.
And again, held for 90 days?
90 days prior to the application. And then from September, there was something called the criminal record test, well, like a CRB check to the UK, which was introduced as well. This will have to be obtained and included as part of the application. They're required to obtain something similar to a CRB check.
But do they have that? I'm sure certain countries around the world, they don't really have a record per se.
Well, they've taken that into consideration as well, and they've said countries where they know that, or they're aware that these sort of certificates, because you issue the certificate, if it's not issued to you, then they will obviously waive that requirement. But in certain countries where they know that you have to obtain it, then you have to include it in your application. Otherwise, even if you did meet all the requirements, all the points, but you do not have the CRB check, then your application is likely to fail.
I see. In terms of maintenance, do you need additional funds for dependents?
Yes, you do. The maintenance requirements for the dependents are £1,890 for each dependent. Again, has to have been held in the account for a period of 90 days prior to the application.
Right. Okay. So, in total, if we said to somebody 220,000 sounds about right for themselves, maybe a couple of dependents.
Yeah, depending on the number of
paying the entrance clearance fee. Yes. They have to pay the medical insurance as well, or how does that work?
The high HT was introduced middle of this year as well.
Since April this year, 2015, £200 for non-student application, 150 for student applications. But you can double check if the point-based system, they would need that. But that's something to look into.
Yes, I know with the student visas,
it's £150 per year. Yes. For the other applications, it's £200 a year, depending on the length of the visa. Okay, viewers, we are talking about immigration matters, but of course you can call in and discuss family, immigration, criminal, and other legal-related matters, inshallah. I have Yomi Yusuf, who has 8 years' experience dealing with immigration. He concentrates on business immigration, particularly entrepreneur applications. He works out of an office in Marble Arch, central London. He's with us today to assist us, so please do utilize this opportunity. You can also email us, inshallah, and we'll go through the emails, and perhaps next show we'll address those questions raised. Don't be shy, call in, put your question forward. You don't have to give us your name, you don't have to give specifics. So inshallah, other people will learn and take from there, inshallah. Right, we've got 1 minute before we go for the break. I just wanted to touch upon something else, which is, let's say someone makes an application and it gets refused. Would they have automatic right of appeal, or how does it work?
The rights of appeal, again, another recent change that's occurred within the rules have now been taken away for certain applications. They have restricted it to only the sort of the human rights applications and maybe the asylum-related applications.
So where does that leave us with entrepreneur applications?
Yes, you have an admin review, which is similar to a right of appeal, but it does not go to court. I think this is my
or a tribunal.
Or a tribunal. It does not go to a tribunal. So for whatever reasons that it is refused, you're given a period of within 28 days to address those reasons and provide whether a missing document or reasons why the document is missing, and then that will be submitted to the ECO to review, or maybe the supervisor of the ECO to sort of reassess the application with a view to either making another decision or removing the original decision and issuing another refusal, or retracting the refusal and then issuing the visa. So you could have one of few outcomes.
Okay, well, Jazakallah khair for that. So if an application is refused, you can ask for an admin review, which is get somebody else to have a look. If certain documents was missing, which was part of a chain or a bundle, then you may have opportunity to sort of raise that and fix that issue. Otherwise, right of appeal, as it used to be, is no longer there, so it doesn't go to the tribunal in the UK for your matter to be addressed. So khair, inshallah, we will go for a break, and then we'll discuss further, inshallah, after the break, inshallah.